What's going on, everybody? How are y'all doing this evening? Listen, the weather is changing out here on the patio, and your girl had to go and grab a sweater because the temp is definitely starting to drop out here. And my lazy butt still has not got my curtains up to go on the patio. So to keep the heat in and enclose it, so I got to work on that. How is everybody doing this evening? I'm gonna give it a minute for folks to jump on. We're seeing here. I'm gonna give it a minute for folks to jump on. Yes. Oh my goodness. Just trying to get set up and get ready. I hope everybody has enjoyed their Friday and had an amazing Friday. My Friday has been great. So I'm going to give a few more minutes for folks to jump in and say, hey, because I am ready to talk about, are you emotionally attached or connected? This is going to be a great conversation this evening, and I can't wait. I definitely want to get feedback from you guys on this particular subject. And because I don't have guests tonight, so like if y'all hear noise at the door, it's Tiger trying to come out. Come on, Tiger. Tiger trying to come out on the patio and join me. So I've got them running loose tonight. So he's decided to come out and join me. And hopefully he doesn't pull any of my cords loose with his big ass. Hey, Tiger. But anyway, what is going on? I hope everybody had an amazing Friday. I really wanted to get on here and talk about, are you emotionally connected or are you emotionally attached? There's a big difference. And a lot of times people don't think about that difference between, and honestly, I didn't think about it until I saw the meme. And that's kind of what I said. I saw the meme, and that's what made me think about doing this show. Are you emotionally attached or are you connected? It was really an interesting analogy. And so that's the reason why I decided to roll with it, because it gave me a perspective that I never really thought about before. The difference between an attachment and a connection. It's a big difference. And the way we think about it and the way we apply that analogy between being, are we emotionally attached or are we emotionally connected? It's a difference. And so I really want to talk about that with you guys tonight and get your perspective on it, because when I saw the meme, I was like, that's an interesting analogy. But before I really get into that, I want to say, you guys remember I keep talking about Girl Talk, and I've talked about Girl Talk several times, and I've actually decided I'm going to relaunch Girl Talk, and we're changing the name of it. It's not going to be Girl Talk with, brunch on the patio with KO. I'm changing it actually to Cocktails on the Patio with KO. And so I'm going to be inviting ladies over. We're going to have cocktails and talk. And so the relaunch of Girl Talk, which is now going to be Cocktails with KO, is going to be next Friday. And next Friday, I have this beautiful young lady joining me on the patio. And I'm going to leave information on how to obtain her book. This is San. Absolutely love her. She's just as beautiful outside as she is inside. And I cannot wait to get her on the patio and she and I sit down and talk about her book. I will leave a link if you guys want to check her book out. It's actually about her journey. And she tells about the things that she's gone through, her struggles and those different things. And then the book also is a workbook that allows you to go through, you know, she talks about different steps and different things that you can go through to help build your own self. And so it's a great little book. And I will definitely, like I said, I will put the link. If you want to order a copy of the book, she will be on next Friday. So if you want to, if you have some questions for her, you know, if you've read the book and you've got some questions, or, you know, during the interview, you want to ask some different things about the book, please make sure you tune in next Friday, because I will have her here on the patio with me, and we are going to talk about this book. We're going to talk about the things that she went through and how she got to where she is. Hey, Stallion, how are you doing, Stallion darling? Thank you for tuning in. So we're definitely going to talk about her book next Friday. So please be sure to tune in, because she is going to be joining me on the patio for Cocktails with KO. And that should be an interesting chat, because she really talks about her struggles with relationships. Hey, Eric, how are you doing, darling? Her struggles with her relationships and different things, and how she got to where she is. And 100%, I believe in supporting my people. And so she, like I said, she's a beautiful spirit, and I can't wait to have her on next Friday. And so something else I'm going to do with Cocktails with KO, if y'all see the little area behind me with the benches, no, it's on this side, the benches and the seats, I'm thinking about allowing a little bit of an audience with Cocktails with KO. So if somebody is interested next Friday, if you want to come and be in the audience, behind us for the show, you are more than welcome to come and join us on the patio. Just reach out and let me know. But tonight, I want to talk about, are you emotionally attached or are you emotionally connected? And before we get into that, let's think about the analogy between the two. And the way I kind of thought, now the meme that I saw, it showed an attachment as like a leech on the arm, sucking blood from the person. And it talked about a connection as if like with two power cords being connected together, and you get that exchange of energy. And so it really got me thinking, like, are you emotionally connected or are you attached? If we think about attachments, you know, let's think about what attachments do. And if I'm looking at it from a lady's perspective, okay, say for instance, you know, we have blow dryers, we have different things that we put, you know, say for instance, you're using your blow dryer has multiple different attachments that you can put onto that blow dryer, and it does different things. But that attachment isn't a permanent thing. It's just something that you're temporarily using at that time. It helps the main source, which is the blow dryer, perform a different function depending on what it is that you're doing with your hair. And so if you kind of think about that from a relationship standpoint, are you emotionally attached or are you connected? Are you really just attached to that person and just there for the moment? If that makes sense. Like, attachments aren't permanent. Attachments are things that can be removed. Attachments, hey, multiple different things that you can bring in. So you really have to take a step back. Am I attached to that person or am I connected? Is this person in my life for just a season? You know, you think about that as a connection. Say, for instance, you know, people say that all the time. Someone was in your life for a season. And that may have been somebody that you loved and you were really into, but they really only served a purpose for you at that particular time, if that makes sense. So I can kind of look at that. I was emotionally attached to that person during the time frame that I needed to be attached to that person. They served a purpose for me during that particular situation in that relationship. They were there for a season. They were there for a reason. And as with attachments, it was a temporary use. And then I moved on. But I feel like sometimes people get stuck on those attachments. And then if you think about when we're talking about a connection in this analogy, and I say, are you emotionally connected? If we think about, and y'all know I like to build stuff, and I'm too heavy. I'm always building. I'm always doing different things. And so when I think about a connection, when you connect things, typically when you do a connection, connections add support. Connections. Hey, Sherry, welcome. Connections are used to support things. Say, for instance, like the meme used the analogy of the power cords, and you plug them in together. That's an exchange of energy, and you're able to get energy going back and forth. So to me, when I talk about connections mean permanent. When you have a connection to someone, they're adding to that support, that stability. They're feeding into you energy, if we're using the analogy of the power cords. So that's kind of, I don't want y'all to keep that in your mind frame as we're talking about, are you emotionally connected? Hey, Terry, welcome. Are you emotionally connected, or are you attached? So we're going to when y'all hear me talk about that, that's the analogy that I want you to think about. When I'm talking about an attachment, think about, ladies, we got 15 million different attachments for certain things. That attachment doesn't add really support. And if I go back to using the blow dryer, that attachment doesn't add any support to the blow dryer, doesn't make the blow dryer any stronger. But what it does do is allow you to use the blow dryer in a different way. But then after you're finished using that, you take the attachment off, right? That attachment comes off that blow dryer until you need it again, and then you put it on. So when I'm talking about this analogy, let's think about attachments. It's used for that moment, what it was needed for. It served its purpose. And now I'm putting it away. I'm done with this particular attachment. But in sticking with the blow dryer, let's talk about connections. If I use that power cord and I plug that blow dryer into the wall, there was a connection. That connection provided energy into that blow dryer to allow me to blow dry my hair. So when I'm talking about a connection, that connection with that person, to me, that person has to be adding a value to you, adding support, making you more stable. You may be stable, but you had that connection with that person and they came along, and now you're even more stable than where you were, and you guys are ready to build. So that's the difference that I'm kind of talking about when I say, whether are you attached to that person or are you connected to that person? And I think a lot of times people get confused about an attachment and a connection. And I think the confusion comes in, and I hear this a lot. This is what I feel like. To me, it's an attachment. If you're in a relationship, and this can go either way, whether any type of relationship, if you're in a relationship with that person, whether it be friends, romance, or whatever it is, oh, excuse me. If that person is not pouring back into you the same amount of energy that you're pouring into them, Is that an attachment or is that a connection? Are you hanging on because you're attached to that person? That person serves a need, or that person has something that you enjoy that keeps you attached to them, but there's no connection that makes sense. They're not pouring anything back into you. And I saw this today, and this is one of my favorites. I'm gonna have to use this as an analogy. Are you attached to the penis or the vagina, or are you connected to the person? I think there's a lot of confusion. Hey, LA, how are you doing, darling? What is up with you? Welcome. We are talking about being emotionally attached or emotionally connected. Damn, but think about it though, Terry and Sherry. Are you attached to the penis or attached to the services that person provides to you that you don't want to let go of? Or is that really and truly a connection between the two? And that's a lot of times when people get confused, and I hear people complain and they fussing about, oh, I do this and I do that and I did this. Oh, I can't let him go because that dick is so good. I love him. Do you love the penis or do you love him? And even for the fellas, because there's even guys that stay in dysfunctional relationships because the sex be off the chain. How many times have y'all heard men say they like them crazy women because the sex be off the chain? Is that an attachment or is it a connection? And then once y'all do have sex, is she connected to you? Like, she may think that she has a connection, but in his mind, she was just an attachment that he's going to remove once he's done. Or even for her, he may just been an attachment that she's using, and then she's going to move on to something else. So you really have to take a step back and look at your relationships from that perspective and ask yourself, am I attached to this person or am I connected to this person? And a lot of times people don't understand the difference. And the difference is, in a connection, you're getting that back and forth. You're getting that support. You're getting that stability. You're not wondering if that other person is feeling the same way that you're feeling, because you got that connection and it's going back and forth. But what I find that's happening a lot nowadays, people more focused on an attachment than they are having a connection with someone. And here's why I say that, because I hear so often people talk about, what do you bring to the table? What can you do for me? How good is your sex? What is this? What is that? So you're looking for those specific things for that person to come along and provide to you. Are you attached to, okay, she be killing it in the kitchen, and you know when you come over, you're going to get that good meal, and you really don't want to break up with her, and you really don't want to let it go because you really like her cooking and you want that good meal. And I'm just using it as an example. So you hang on to her because she provides different things for you as a male. And even as from a female perspective, you hang on to that person because they provide a different service. And then you become emotionally attached to that service. Does that make sense? And so now what you're connected to, or what you're attached to, is that service. I can't tell you how many times I've heard, ooh, they get on my nerves. All we do is fuss and fight and we argue. You know, they ain't got no job. They're not adding to the household. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. But yet, baby, that dick is good. The sex is good. I can't let him go because, hey, he keeps my car filled with gas and, you know, helps me to get from point A to point B, so I can't let him go, are you emotionally attached, or are you connected to that person that you're saying you don't want to let go? Are they adding to what you got going on? Well, you can't stop laughing, Terry. I'm being because you know it's true. It definitely happens. People are attached to services that the other person provides, as far as instead of being connected, and they get confused by that. You're thinking back now. Hold on, let me pop this up. She said, Sherry says, I'm thinking back now, LOL, and asking, was it an attachment? Absolutely. That's the question. Was it really was it an attachment, or did you really have a connection with that person? And then here's my question. When does that connection develop? How long does it take for that connection to develop? Is it an instant connection? I you know, sometimes everybody is a little bit different, but you have to know the difference on whether or not that person is attached to you, or is that person connected to you? Because if that person is just attached to you and you want more, it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all, because they're using you for a particular reason. If we go back to that analogy with the blow dryer, they put you on as the comb to blow out their hair. And once they achieve that hairstyle or whatever it is that they're looking for, then they're ready to move on. And now you're hurt because you thought there was a connection, where in that person's mind, they were only attached to you for a season, if that makes sense. And I did the same thing, Sherry. When I saw the meme, I had to take a step back and go, in my past relationships, can I say, was I attached, or was I emotionally connected? Now, I have to say this. You used to be stigmatized. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me pull this up. I used to be stigmatized in the 80s relationships. Now looking back, hey, we all have been there. We all have been there. We've had some good dick. We've had some good pussy. I'm just saying, we have all been there where we got attached to it, but it really was no connection. And we didn't understand that there was no connection, because in our mind, we were completely and totally attached to everything that was going on. Like the fussing, the fighting, and arguing, that didn't mean nothing, because you was stigmatized, and that dick was so good you didn't care nothing about what else was going on, because you were attached to the penis. And it happens. It happens all the time. Like, especially, and I'm gonna have to say this, it happens more, and this is just my perspective, I feel like it happens more for women than it does for men, because quite often, the minute that a woman has sex, they are typically, and I'm gonna have to say, emotionally attached. I can't say connected. I'm gonna have to say that the minute that they, have sex, that they are emotionally attached to that person. I'm sorry, I keep seeing my light. Hold on, I'm going on and off. They're emotionally attached to that person, as opposed to there being a connection with that person. And that happens quite often to the women, because women are I'm sorry, y'all, I'm turning off this light that keeps going on and off. Disabled. Yeah. Women, when it comes to sex, we are all about our emotions when it comes to sex. A lot of women don't like to have sex unless they are emotionally attached to that man. And so the minute they lay down and they have have sex, they feel like they've got that connection, and now they feel like they're emotionally connected. But is it a connection or is it an attachment? Let me see. Sherry made another comment. What is this? Totally an attachment for me, but a connection for him. I just text that question to my ex asking him. He says it was a connection for him. I told him, watch a show. Well, thank you, Sherry. Yes, that is the problem too. A lot of people, one person is feeling like it's a connection and another person is talking about that it's an attachment. What did you say? Love says she is waiting to be dickmatized. I'm still waiting. Hey, sex is an emotional attachment for me. Most women, sex is definitely an emotional attachment for them. And because Love brought that up, I'm going to share something with y'all that I've been dealing with. And I'm pretty sure that a few of the ladies that know me was probably shocked when they saw that I was talking about emotions. Because when I tell you, I've had a few girlfriends to say to me, girl, you don't know nothing about you don't even like emotions and you don't use your emotions. When I do, I do. I actually am an emotional person. I just show my emotions a little bit different. But I was having actually, and because you brought up sex, Love, and I'm gonna bring this up. I was actually having a conversation with a girlfriend of mine about an issue that I'm having. And y'all know I talk about my friend all the time, that I use friends with benefits. I can say, I will have to say that we have a connection, but I won't say that it's an emotional connection because I am not emotionally connected to him. I have to say it's a connection because it's a mutual exchange. And I can see where he adds that stability and different things because he's really a good friend as well. So we have a strong connection there on a friendship level. But because I'm not emotionally connected to him, I struggle sometimes. No, let me back up. Let me rephrase. Let me back up. First, let me say this. The sex is good. Don't get me wrong. Because y'all know if the sex wasn't good, it'd be one and done for me. But because I'm not not emotionally attached or connected, I sometimes feel like I'm in my head. Like it keeps me from really relaxing and what is she talking about now? Let it out. It keeps me, I find myself staying in my head a lot where I can tell the difference when I'm emotionally connected with a person and I'm having sex. I can tell the difference between an emotional connection with someone during sex and not being emotionally. Like physically, I can still 100% enjoy it. 100% enjoy it. I can definitely do that. But I have issues with tapping into my emotional side that helps me to kind of relax. And you ladies know what I'm talking about. You know there's a difference. When you're emotionally connected with a person, the sex be off the chain. It's a big difference. You let all kind of guards down in those particular aspects. And so that is something, because I'm not emotionally attached or even connected in that particular manner sexually. I won't say it's not a struggle, but I tend to feel like I'm in my head sometimes. And I've got to figure that out, because I got to figure out how to get back to relaxing. Yes, emotions make a huge difference. I'm not dismissing that at all. Emotions make a huge difference when it comes to sex. Emotions make a huge difference when it comes to relationships, period. But the thing is, you have to know the difference between whether or not you're emotionally attached or are you emotionally connected to that person. And with that connection, there's always a back and forth. And sometimes I think that's what we miss. is we miss the fact, and that's how people get hurt, because you think that you're both connected and you're not. You're just an attachment, and you're attached to that person, and they see you as an attachment. You thought, what do you mean you thought that was all you? I thought that was all I knew. Oh, you're talking about it being emotionally attached, Sherry? But now I'm second guessing. For women, let me say this, and for women, and I can only base this on my perspective and the ladies that I've talked to. For women, sex is an emotional connection, attachment, period. For a lot of women, the minute they lay down and they have sex and they feel like they have given themselves to that person, they are now emotionally connected because they shared something intimate with that person. And that's where that connection comes in. And now that I'm really thinking about it, because I'm going to tell you, Sherry, I had to take a step back and I really evaluated this a lot too, about whether it's an emotional attachment or an emotional connection. And I noticed, I had to take a step because I noticed that there's certain things, if I don't have an emotional connection with a person, there's certain things that I don't do. Like, for instance, and this goes back to my Friends with Benefits show, and where I was talking about everybody has their rules and their regulations and their guards and those different things that they will and will not do. And you have to know what the other person's boundaries are. And I had to take a step back and think, okay, do I have boundaries when it comes to my Friends with Benefits that keeps me from becoming emotionally connected or emotionally attached? Like, do I have those safeguards? And at first I told myself no. And then I had to think about it. I do. So like, if we're just friends with benefits, like, I don't do things that I consider to be intimate, like all that extra foreplay, and those different things. I don't do the foreplay. Well, I mean, I do some, don't get me wrong, I will do some, but all the cuddling and hand holding and rubbing and all of that, I typically don't do that with someone I'm not emotionally connected to. So in my mind, you're an attachment and you're here to perform a service. So once that service is done, then it's time to move on. And so that's probably where I'm stuck in my head with that. Some people, okay, let's see what Love said here. Some people feed the need, known and unknown, we have that creates the attachment. A connection is organic for me, and it's there whether I want it or not. Okay, I see your perspective. I see your perspective on that. But and I'm gonna use this as an example, because I recently had a conversation. When I tell you I've been having so many conversations with people about emotions, and Violetta, you agree with Love. Most women are all about the emotional attachment. But here's what they miss. Ladies, we may be attached and you may have that emotional attachment, but did he develop a connection with you? See, there's a difference between an attachment and a connection, where you attached to them and you were all into it and you were into your emotions, but that feeling was not reciprocated. If it's not reciprocated, it's an attachment. And we find ourselves wanting to hold on to it. And we find ourselves wanting to fix it. And we find ourselves wanting to figure out, why don't they have the same attachment to you that you have to them? Because they're just not there emotionally. And that's the thing with women. And I had this discussion not that long ago with a lady, and we were talking about my situation about not being emotionally connected and the struggle that I was having. And so they said to me, well, why don't you want to become emotionally attached? Like what's stopping you from developing those emotions with that person? And I said, because I know that it's not going to become anything more. Like I know that it's not going to go beyond where it is. And their response to me was, you shouldn't allow other people's feelings to dictate how you feel. And so my question was, if I know that that person is not emotionally connected to me or attached to me and is not interested in having an emotional attachment or connection with me, why would I want to develop an emotional attachment or connection to that person? Like, to me, I can't see myself full well knowing that that person doesn't want that, trying to develop those emotions or those feelings for that person when I know they're not going to be reciprocated. And I think that happens a lot. And it does happen, and I have to agree with love. I'm not dismissing it. A lot of times it happens organically when you're around people a lot, and especially if they're doing something for you. It takes, Violetta says, it takes a lot of maturity to have just an attachment. Yes, especially if you know it is just an attachment. Absolutely. It does take a lot of maturity to reach that point, because everybody is not there. And I don't expect everybody to be there. But what you have to be aware of is, are you just attached to that person? Or do you guys have an emotional connection? Is it going back and forth? What did she say? She said, I'm sorry, I'm reading her comment. She was like, yes, I am immature. Karen knows that I won't engage. I can't handle an attachment. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell people that all the time, especially women who, and I hear that a lot when they talk about, oh, most men are really just looking for friends with benefits relationships, and they're not really looking to, be in a relationship with someone or settle down. And so because the woman is interested in him, she'll agree to it, but yet she's really not on board with just being friends or being an attachment, and then end up developing feelings or emotions, and then it doesn't work. Two people have to be on the same accord, or it's never going to work. And then here's my other thing, and I say this a lot too, and I get it, because somebody's gonna say, well, they could be telling you that they have a connection with you, and men lie, women lie. They tell you they love you, they tell you they want to be with you, they tell you all of these different things. But I want y'all to notice the common thread throughout all of that. They tell. He tells me he loves me. He tells me this. He tells me that. People can say anything. What does his actions or her actions show you? Their actions going to show you whether it's an attachment or if it's a connection. Actions, 100%. Actions all day long. And so if you are feeding into them and you're showing acts of service and you're showing that you're putting that person's feelings, emotions are important to you and all of those different things, but what they actions are showing you is something totally different, they are not the one for you. There is no connection. You are an attachment. He or she is an attachment being used for that moment. And let's be clear, not all attachments are bad attachments. You can have a good attachment. Attachments Listen, I'm a tool person. Attachments help get things done. Certain attachments, perform certain duties, and you swap out that attachment and you use it for that moment. But if you got that connection, the connection is going to add to you. You're naturally going to feel like that person is supportive of you. And that's why I say, like, I may not be emotionally connected from an intimacy, and I have to say that from an intimacy standpoint with my friend, but can I say that we have a connection on a friendship level? 100%. I 100% feel supported by them. Like, and matter of fact, I thank them all the time. Like, I appreciate your support. I appreciate you always being there for me. So we do have that connection. Like, it's a back and forth in the friendship, and that we're there for each other. But from a sexual standpoint, it's an attachment. It's an attachment. And I'm going to utilize that attachment for the time that it's being utilized for. And eventually, somewhere down the line, I'm no longer going to need that attachment, and things are going to change. And I'm going to look for something new, and maybe a new attachment that may end up being a connection. Not saying that attachments can't grow into connections. They can. But the key is, if that person is not returning, you're not getting that stability. If that connection is not there, then you have to take a step back and ask yourself, is that really a connection? Or am I just attached to this person for this particular moment in my life? And I need to understand when it's time for me to move on. Yeah. And emotional attachments are definitely, I agree with you, 100% the worst. And that's why we're talking about that. Are you emotionally attached? Are you connected? Because when you give those emotions over to someone, like, and trust me, even though I am guarded with my emotions, I do understand from a female perspective, because it took me a minute to get here. It took me a minute. And I know Love likes to joke, and she calls me Kevin. It took me a minute to get to this point of understanding my emotions. I'll put it that way. And understanding who keeps hurting. Yes. It took me a minute to understand that I can't become emotionally connected or attached to everyone. I can't give and put my everything into you, and then it's not being reciprocated. Yes, reciprocity is the key in any relationship, regardless of the level of that relationship. And if there's no back and forth, if there's no exchange, if there's no building, no stability, none of that in that relationship, you're attached. They're attached to you. Say, for instance, you got that person, and we've all had those people that be blowing us up. And they still want something. They still hang around no matter what you say or what you do to that person. They won't leave. You can cuss them out, call them whatever. Okay, and I'm sorry, I have to pop this one up. LA says, I have never had anyone match me in giving, ever. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful right there. Because if you feel like that person is not matching your energy, that you have to take a step back. What did he say? Reciprocity is a dying action. LA, you about to make me get on my soapbox. And I'm trying not to get on my soapbox tonight, but you're going to make me get on my soapbox. I 100% agree with LA. 100% agree with him that reciprocity is a dying action. So many people nowadays are out for What can you do for me? And they could care less about doing for the other person. Most people, it's all about me, 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 me. I can't tell you how many times, and I've talked about this before, about those memes and those posts that say, hey, if you can't pay bills, if you can't do this, if you can't do that, and blah, blah, this, don't even look my way. Don't even come into my DM. Or even the fellas, you don't give head. If you don't do this, you don't do that. Don't even bother. Like, I agree that reciprocity is lost nowadays. And the new world order is all about self-preservation and what people can do for you instead of trying to figure out how to build. Yes, yes, yes. And it is very true in any relationship. Absolutely. Any relationship, that is a true statement. That back and forth. LA, I'm not fooling with you. Head is definitely important. She see, love talking about I'm gonna need that bill money and that back rub. See, here's the thing. To me, and we're talking about emotions. Say, for instance, that man, he come in, he pay all your bills. He may even rub your back, since love said that. Get that back rub in. Got them bills paid. Car always washed, gassed up. All of those different things. He's taking care of all of that. All of that. But yet he's not emotionally connected to you. He's just providing you those services. He's not interested in a relationship with you. He doesn't want anything from you. He has no problem with providing those services for you. So now you got that bill money. Now you getting that back rub. Now you got your car wash. Your gas is gassed up. You want to go out with the girls. Here's money. Y'all go chill. Y'all go hang. You're attached to that money, that back rub, and that ease of life. You don't want to let that go. You eventually, a lot of times that happens, you become emotionally attached to the services that person provides, but they're not matching your emotional energy, where you all into them because they're providing that service, and it makes you feel good. And that's what happens. It makes you feel good when those people provide those services and they do for you. And you be like, ooh, and they are a giving person, such as LA says. And they're a giving person. Because a lot of men will give. Men have no issues with giving. And they'll give all day long and perform those services for you all day long. But what you miss is they don't have that emotional connection with you. They can still do all of that without being connected to you. There's a difference. We may not have that emotional connection. He don't care. All he wants to do is provide that service for you. And then you're confused because, and I get this terminology a lot, because women like to say, oh, he doing boyfriend stuff. How can he say he don't want a relationship? He doing boyfriend stuff. He comes over and he does this, and he comes over and he does that. But yet at the same time, tell me he don't want a relationship. Because he's not emotionally connected to you. It's an attachment. You're an attachment for him that he screwed on to himself for that little while that he's going to be using you. So just because he's, and you may think, okay, all he wants is sex. That's all he's looking for, but he's providing all of those different services. So what is it she said? Yes, money means nothing to a lot of men. That's why I crave time and attention in their emotions. That's the need I have. Yeah, time and attention and emotions. But that's the other thing too that will trip women up, and sometimes men, because I've been guilty of that, because I will give my time and attention to people as well. But that's just it. Time and attention doesn't always equate to emotional connection either. Because if he cares about you and he likes you, And say, for instance, you that good attachment, you don't give him no trouble. Like, you know, ain't no lip, ain't no argument. All of that. He gonna give you his time and attention, but there still may not be an emotional connection. So that's the difference. Men will give, and this goes back to Pastor said, they look for peace. You provide him peace, and you provide him respect, and he will provide that service. You really ain't got to do a whole lot for men, ladies. You don't. He will do it. He will do it. But don't misunderstand his acts of service as being an emotional connection. Even when, and I agree, because that's my love language. So I agree with love. That's my love language. Time and attention is my love language. And that's how you know, and regardless of my level of relationship with you, if I give you my time and attention, then you know we're connected on some level. Because if I'm not giving you my time and attention, you mean nothing to me. You may be an attachment for me, and I use you when I need to use you, and I screw you on when I need to use you for whatever it is that I need to use you for. But I may not have that connection with you. But if I got a connection, you're going to get my time and attention. That's my love language. My love language is time and attention. And so that's who I am. And so a lot of times people mistake that as if that's your love language, and you be like, oh, he's giving me time and attention, he must be feeling. Make sure that connection is the same. Make sure. And if a person says to you, they say to you, and I tell this all the time, especially when it comes to a man, if he gives you his truth, believe him. You go into it and that man says, I'm not looking for no relationship. I got no problems doing everything that you asking me to do. I'll do this. I'll do that. We can spend some time. We can travel. We can do all those different things, but I don't want a relationship. Take him at his word. Even women, because I've said it before, be like, I'm not interested. I'm not looking for a relationship. No, I'm sorry. Like you trying to do too much. And that's not the level that we're on. Understanding whether or not you're on the same level with that person also helps to identify, is it an attachment or is it a connection? Yes. And I'm going to go back up to a comment that LA made. That boyfriend stuff talk is childish, though. Maybe he shouldn't do that shit for you. Men take care of their interests. Yes, if they can. I that's why I say that. And I hear that so often. Treat me like, he acting like a boyfriend. He doing boyfriend stuff. No, he's doing man stuff because he's a man. And that's what he's been taught that men are supposed to do. And so you can't take his actions of service as meaning something more if he didn't tell you it meant more. That's the difference. Believe them when they say it. Yes, men like to do men stuff. They really do. And they like to provide those different services, and they like to do those different things. But you have to understand, you may be enjoying it, and vice versa. And I don't want y'all to think that I'm picking on the ladies, because this goes both ways, because that situation can be where the man thinks that he's got a connection, and the lady is like, no, boo, you just an attachment, and I'm using you for this moment for my needs or whatever it is that I need to be taken care of. You're an attachment. There's no connection. No connection at all. That attachment, and just think about it, that attachment easily come off and a new one put on. So if you feel like, and I hear this so much, I hear this a lot. People say, I don't feel like, sometimes I step back and I wonder if they love me or if they really even care, because their actions don't really show me that they love me and that they care about me. Take a step back. Do you have a connection with that person, or are you an attachment? If you have to wonder whether or not you have that same connection and you feel one way but how you're feeling is not being reciprocated by that person, why are you with them? Why? Because you can't change it. And as Love said, don't make his truth into a challenge. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I've seen it so often. Women go into it, and I have to say women, because I'm speaking from a female perspective, and this is what I hear from a lot of women. I went in thinking I could change his mind. Oh, he said he don't want it, but I can change his mind. No, you can't. You can't change his mind. Nor is it a challenge to get him to change his mind. It's not a challenge, because he's not. He's not interested. He's not interested. And nothing you do or say is going to change that. And even for her, nothing you do or say is going to change that, if that's what she meant and that was her truth. You got to learn to start taking people for their truth and take a step back and look at these one-sided relationships. Because if you feel like that you've given more than you receive, that you have to ask yourself, why do you want to be with somebody that you feel like I give, but I never get anything in return? And I have to be honest. I have to go back to LA's statement. I hear that a lot from the men, that I do, and I do for her, and I do this and I do that, but I don't get it in return. So that connection is important. If she says, let me pop up what Eric, did I accidentally? No, I didn't. Eric says, if she says she's an attachment, should she take all the gifts and given opportunities he's offered? Now that's a good question. That's a very good question, Eric. Good question. If she says she's an attachment, now, and listen, y'all, I'm on some old fashioned tonight. I ordered this new little bottle to make me some old fashions at home. It's so good. But anyway, that's a very good question. So let's kind of talk about that. That's a good question. Should you? Now, let's clarify. Now, Eric, are you saying that she's saying he's an attachment for her, but yet he's still providing all of those services to her? Is that what you're saying? And yet he knows. Now, if he knows that he's an attachment, and she said, I don't want nothing, I'm not interested in a relationship, and she told him I'm not interested, and he's providing all those services and gifts, that's not on her. That's on him. That's on him. Because if he knows he's an attachment, and he knows that she's not interested in a relationship, and if he's doing those things to change her mind, that's on him. And I have seen that happen before, where men think they can buy love. They can buy that connection. They can buy her loyalty to him. They do it all the time, because this new generation is all about money and what you can do for them. And so you find that a lot, that women are looking for, what can you do for me? And then he goes in and he's thinking, oh, if I come in and I provide all of these things for her, oh, that's my way of working on a relationship, and we're going to get that connection going. And I bought her gifts, and I did this, and I got your car fixed. I turned your lights back on. I paid your rent. I did all of these things. And you telling me that it ain't nothing? There's nothing between us? Like, you're not connected to me? Like, you can just kick me to the curb that easy? It's over. It's done after all that I have done for you? Whose problem is that? Whose fault? His or hers? Now, if she was telling that lie, or he was telling that lie of that they were feeling the same way, then the person that's lying is at fault. And you have every right to be upset and be angry about it. because you thought you were working on a connection and you guys had that exchange and you were building and that support and all of those different things were there, but that person was lying to you and that wasn't the truth. Then yes, you have a right to be upset with that person. Again, that depends on whether or not that person understands what that level of connection is. Because if he or she was honest and said, hey, I'm not looking for no relationship, I'm not interested in a relationship, I enjoy kicking it with you, we having a good time, but I don't want anything more. And that other person takes it upon themselves to provide all of those gifts and those different things full well knowing, that's on the person who's buying those gifts and doing it. You can't blame the other person if they're being upfront and honest about it. Eric said, good pussy and mental illness is real. Listen, just like the women can become digmatized, the men can become pussy whipped. It definitely can happen. It has happened, and they go all out buying gifts and doing all these different things to change her mind and to keep her. However, he's the sucker. I'm sorry if she's being upfront and honest about it. The sucker is on him. Is on whoever the person is that's doing all of that, full well knowing that the other person is not returning or reciprocating that to them. Like for me, I'm like LA. I'm a big giver. You know what? On my journey of self-reflection, because I used to wonder why men would fall in love with me so easy. I'd be like, dang, like, dude, we just been talking, like, you already, got your feelings in your feelings, like, what's going on? But I had to take a step back and realize what it is. Here's the thing. I'm a nurturer. I'm a giver. And what I tend to do is I'm a listener. And if you come into my circle and we're talking, and, regardless of our level of relationship, and we're talking, I'm listening to your issues. I'm listening to your problems. I'm listening to those things that you got going on, your wants, your needs, your wishes. And then I'm the type that, say, for instance, I'm out and I'll see something, I'll be like, oh, I remember when I was talking, I was talking to Eric the other day, and he was talking about, man, he'd been looking for such and such and such and such, and he hadn't been able to find one. And damn it, here it is. I'm the type, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna get it for you, and I'm gonna be like, Eric, I remember you was talking about this, and you were saying that you wanted it, so I saw it, and I bought it. And then, from a male perspective, because LA says most of the time, men give more than the women do. It's on different levels. And so then they take us, I'll be like, damn, she already buying stuff and she got that, I'm finna lock her down. And then I'll be like, no, I was just being nice. Like, that's just the type of person I am. I'm a giver. Didn't mean anything by it. I'm sorry if you got that impression that it was more. Really, it wasn't. I just bought it because I thought it was something that you would like or something that you would enjoy. And so it can get mistaken. So I get what you're saying. Gifts can sometimes get, when you do for people, they take it differently. But I'm just a giver. That's who I am. But I can say, because I am a giver, and I am truly, when I'm in a relationship, because I'm such a giver and a nurturer, I always put that person first. I always put that person first, which is why it's important to me that connection be reciprocated, if that makes sense. Because I don't want to be putting you first if you're not putting me first. You see what I'm saying? It's that exchange of energy. And that's what happens a lot. A lot of times people are expected, oh, he needs to put me first. I'm number one. Put me first. But do you put him first before you? And vice versa. You looking for that, and men do the same. They're looking for that woman to cater to them and to take care of them and do all of those things and put him first. But do you put her first? That's a connection, that exchange back and forth. Let's say I have a friend. We have been friends for over 40 years. Let me pop this. Melissa says, I have a friend. We've been friends for over 40 years, and we know where we stand with each other. Absolutely. Knowing where you stand is the most important thing in all of this. You got to know where you stand and know whether or not you are an attachment or you are connected. That's important. Are you an attachment? Is that person an attachment for you? And if they just an attachment, do they know they're an attachment? Let's see. Love says thoughtfulness is a lost art. People don't know how to give it or receive it. When they do, it's foreign and they'll create an attachment. I can agree with you on that. That happens a lot because they're not used to somebody being good to them. And then they come around and they meet that person and he say, oh, I'm not, or she says, I'm not looking for a relationship, but they good to you. And you be like, but damn, how you going to tell me you don't want a relationship, but you treat me so well? Yeah, it happens. And then you develop that attachment. Yes. But you have to be, but then that's not that person's fault. That's your fault. That's whoever developed that attachment. That's your fault. If you know that attachment is not, that it's not being reciprocated, if that makes sense. And I think that's where we all get confused, because we do get kindness and acts of service sometimes confused with an emotional connection. We've all done it. We've all done it and thought there was something more than what it really was. But you were there for a season. It was an attachment. Oh, I can't believe we already over an hour, y'all. Y'all know I get to talking and I get to going. But sex, and I have to go back to Eric's comment. He come talking about that good. Yes, that good will get the men every time. And a lot of times men are overlooked that craziness. Rick, we already know you like them crazy. What did Rick say? I always let women know up front, I'm not looking for a relationship. And that's a good thing. And you should. But you one of them that people always say you treat them like a boyfriend. You doing boyfriend stuff, and then you get them confused and they become attached. And then once they get that attachment, they don't understand. Well, what do you mean it's not being reciprocated? The things that you do for me. Because a lot of times, think about it. If you think about it, and I'm going to give this from a female perspective for you fellas, and this is why women get attached to that, because we're always told that's what a man is supposed to do. He's supposed to provide, and he's supposed to do these different things, and he's supposed to provide those acts of service. When a man loves you, he does those acts of service. And so women equate those acts of service to love. Because we've always been told when a man loves you, these are the things that he will do. And so now, this new world, things have changed. And so a man may come along and he'll do those things, but he may not necessarily be in love with you. But he does those things because that's what he was taught that he's supposed to do. Like, he's a man, and these are the things that he feels that a man is supposed to do for a woman. But yet she gets confused by that, because for a female, and which goes back to the saying, he treats me like a boyfriend. For a female, when you do those kind of things, to us, that says love. Because that's what we've been told. When a man loves you, that's when he does that. He does those type of things because he loves you. Let's see what LA says. When men do man shit, it trips some up because they're used to nigga shit. Okay. Screw and give you nothing. but excuses and BS. Absolutely. And then when they run across a good man who does those things, they immediately get emotionally attached, or they're looking for a problem because they don't believe that he can be real. He's too good. Something got to be wrong because I'm too used to being disappointed by all of the other guys in the past. So it happens. If I love you, I'll let you know. Don't just assume. Oh, 100%. 100%. 100%. And I'm going to tell this secret. And I'm going to tell it. And ladies, listen. If a man... No, because there are some men who throw that word love around lightly. I even had a guy one time, we wasn't even on that level, and we were in the middle of sex, which kind of actually messed up my groove, because he was like, tell me you love me. And I was like, no, because I don't love you. He was like, I said, I don't love you. And he was like, I know, but I just want to hear it. No, that's not a word I just throw around lightly to people. I'm not going to tell you I love you if I don't love you. If I don't have a connection and I'm not in love with you, love is not going to pass my lips. And so I kind of, me, myself, because that's how I am, I'm a little leery of if we just started dating and it's only been, a little while and you already throwing that love word out. That makes me question, like, how could you already be in love? And that energy exchange is definitely not there for me. And that actually may get him kicked to the curb. That's sad to say. Ooh, that's so horrible for me to say. If we not on the same and you pop out with that early, that's gonna make me look at you a little bit different, in a different light. I don't throw around that love word. So I'm with you, Rick. If I love you, you're gonna know I love you, and I won't have an issue with saying that I love you. But if we ain't on that level, then I'm at the same time I have no issues telling you we not on that level. But we are over an hour. Listen, I hope y'all got something out of this and y'all are actually taking a step back and thinking about the difference between an attachment and a connection. Because if there's not an even flow in exchange of that energy, just think about what connections do. Connections add, connections make it stronger. Connections provide a source of energy. All of those different things you get from a connection. Think about it. We're connected. Connections typically don't come apart easily. You know what I'm saying? When you say it's connected, it's together. Oh, I connected it. That means it's good and it's on that tight, and you're not expecting it to just pop a loose. An attachment, it's just a temporary something you put on to utilize whatever it is that you're working with in a different way or at that particular time in your life. It was an attachment. He was an attachment. She was an attachment. Are you an attachment for that person? Being able to recognize that, because if they're not reciprocating what you're giving out, are you an attachment? And can you be honest with yourself that you're an attachment and make a decision for you? Because if he sees you or she sees you as an attachment, you can't change that. The only person that can change that is them. And if they put you in as an attachment, what makes you think they want to change? What makes you think there is something that you can do to change them? You can't change people. People have to want to change. And I hear that a lot from ladies, especially when I talk about friends with benefits and those different things. And they be like, well, how you know, he may change his mind. Okay. Well, right now, I understand and I'm in agreement with where we are. It may have been a few years, but I know right now we have a connection on a friendship level, but as far as anything else in a relationship, it's an attachment, and we utilize each other to satisfy a need in that particular instance. Now, will it change? I'm not looking for a change, but I know that all I can do is take him for his word that he's not looking for that, and I'm not looking for that. And in order for it to change, it have to be a mutual conversation that we both have to have to say, and and then even though we got that connection, who's to say that, if he came up and said, you know what, I changed my mind, you know what, let's look, I may not be interested. So you really have to weigh those different things. You have to think about that. Are you an attachment? Are you a connection? If you're an attachment, are you comfortable sitting where you are and being that attachment for that person? Or do you want more and you want a connection? And you have to understand that a connection may never happen with that person, because they're going to pop you off as soon as they're done. They're going to pop that attachment off and put it in a drawer and put on a new attachment just as quick as they pop that old one off. So you have to understand the difference. Are you emotionally attached because they did something? The dick was good, the pussy was good, the food was good, the head was good, all of those different things that made you become emotionally attached? Or do you have that connection because, man, that emotional exchange between the two of you is being reciprocated and you can feel it and you know it? So kind of take a step back and look at your relationships from that standpoint. And I'd be interested to hear back from you guys what you think, like when you evaluate those, your relationships. And it doesn't matter what level, it could be friends, because this applies across the board to all relationships, even at work. And say, for instance, your work relationship with your manager or whoever, do you feel like you just an attachment for them, or do you got a connection with your manager? Do you feel like, hey, they got your best interest at heart just like you got their best interest at heart? I can 100% say, hey, me and my manager don't talk all the time, but I know when push come to shove, she got my back and I got hers, and that's all that matters. We got that connection. So look at that on all different levels of relationships that you have. Is it an attachment? Is that person, and I guess you could say an attachment, is that person dependent on you? Are they dependent? That's an attachment. When they have a dependency on you, that's an attachment. But you're not dependent on them. No connection. That makes sense. But thank y'all, and please tune in next Friday when we have San on. I can't wait to interview her and talk about this book. I will put a link out if you want to go out and grab a copy of it. You want to ask some questions. It's a wonderful book. It talks about her journey of how she got to where she is. And matter of fact, when she comes on, I'm going to ask her about attachments and connections. But I appreciate y'all tuning in tonight for Red Wine Conversations. I will see y'all back next Friday for Cocktails with KO. We will be having cocktails on the patio and enjoying ourselves. Thank you, Melissa. I'm so glad that you enjoyed the show. Great. I have to pop this one up. She says, great tools. Yes. I always want to give y'all something to think about. That's what I feel like this show is about, self-reflection. And I want you to walk away with something to think about on your mind and apply to things that's going on with you in life. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please check me out next week when we have the beautiful San on the show, and we're going to talk about her book. But love y'all. Appreciate y'all. See you next week.